Welcome, everyone, to today's session on creativity and innovation. This topic is critical in today's fast-paced world, where organizations must innovate to stay competitive. Creativity isn't just for artists. It's a vital skill for business leaders, engineers, and healthcare professionals alike. Today, we will explore why innovation matters, define creativity, examine the traits of creative individuals, and analyze how social contexts and brainstorming techniques influence creative outcomes. We'll wrap up with a case study on IDEO, a global design firm renowned for its innovative approach. By the end, you'll understand how to foster creativity in teams and apply it to real-world challenges, like improving patient care processes in healthcare or designing new products. Let's think about creativity as a process, not a gift. Everyone can be creative with the right mindset and tools. For instance, consider how companies like Apple or Tesla innovate by combining technical expertise with creative problem-solving. We'll dive into practical strategies, like brainstorming rules and divergent thinking, to unlock your creative potential. Reflect on a time you solved a problem creatively. What sparked that idea? We'll build on that intuition today. Our agenda includes the importance of innovation, creativity's definition, characteristics of creative people, the social context of creativity, brainstorming techniques, and the IDEO case study. Keep an open mind, as we'll engage in activities like the bowl exercise to practice creative thinking. Let's set a goal. By the end, you'll have at least one actionable idea to apply in your studies or work. Ready? Let's dive into why innovation is a game changer for organizations. Let's walk through our agenda to set the stage for today's discussion on creativity and innovation. We'll start with the importance of innovation, exploring why organizations must adapt to survive in dynamic markets, like healthcare or tech. For example, hospitals that innovate by adopting telehealth improve patient access and efficiency. Next, we'll define creativity, asking whether it's an individual trait, a product of the environment, or both. You'll reflect on who you consider creative and why, which will ground our discussion in personal experience. We'll then examine characteristics of creative people, such as risk-taking and intrinsic motivation, using examples like entrepreneurs who pivot during challenges. The social context of creativity comes next. How families, schools, and workplaces shape creative output. Think about how a supportive mentor can spark innovation, like a professor encouraging a novel research approach. Brainstorming is a key focus. We'll explore why group brainstorming often underperforms and how to fix it with techniques like setting high goals or using facilitators. Finally, we'll analyze IDEO, a design firm that exemplifies creative teamwork, using their rules like encourage wild ideas to inspire us. Throughout, we'll engage in activities like the bowl exercise to practice divergent thinking, generating as many ideas as possible for a simple object. This agenda ties to real-world applications, like designing regulatory strategies in pharmaceutical industries, as some of you have explored in prior courses. By understanding these concepts, you'll be better equipped to tackle complex problems, whether in business, healthcare, or policy. Let's keep the energy high and ideas flowing. Think of this as a creative playground. For the next hour, innovation is the lifeblood of successful organizations, driving efficiency, adaptability, and growth in ever-changing markets. Consider a hospital that streamlines patient intake with digital tools. That's innovation improving outcomes. Today, companies like Amazon or Pfizer thrive by constantly rethinking processes and creating new products, from cloud computing to vaccines. Without innovation, organizations risk stagnation. Blockbuster's failure to adapt to streaming is a classic example. Innovation isn't just about new products. It's about improving existing systems, like optimizing supply chains in healthcare to reduce costs. It requires thinking outside the box, challenging assumptions, and embracing change. For instance, in Canadian healthcare, Adopting AI for diagnostics has enhanced patient care while meeting Health Canada standards, as some of you studied in regulatory affairs courses. Innovation demands a culture that rewards experimentation and tolerates failure. Google's 20% time policy, where employees explore side projects, led to Gmail's creation. This shows how fostering creativity can yield breakthroughs. However, innovation isn't easy. It requires resources, vision, and courage to disrupt the status quo. In your teams, think about a process you could improve, like a faster way to share research data. Innovation also ties to adaptability. Organizations that pivot during crises, like restaurants offering delivery during COVID, survive. As students, you can apply this by proposing novel solutions in case studies or projects. Ask yourself, what's one area in your field that needs innovation? By the end of this slide, I want you to jot down one innovative idea for your industry, big or small. We'll revisit these later to see how creativity shapes them. Creativity is often misunderstood as a mystical trait, but it's a process anyone can develop. Let's explore. Is creativity in the person, the idea, or the context? Think of someone you consider creative, maybe a colleague who devised a new workflow or an artist who reimagines everyday objects. What makes them creative? It's not just talent. It's a mindset of curiosity and problem-solving. For example, in pharmaceutical research, a scientist might creatively combine existing drugs for new treatments, as seen in some regulatory submissions you've studied. Creativity involves seeing problems differently, like designing a user-friendly medical device. Are you creative? Yes, if you've ever found a workaround for a challenge, like reorganizing a study schedule to meet deadlines. Creativity isn't limited to artsy fields. It's critical in business, healthcare, and policy. For instance, crafting a novel HR strategy to boost morale during downsizing, as some of you explored, requires creative thinking. Paul Torrance's definition, which we'll see next, frames creativity as sensing problems, hypothesizing solutions, and testing them. This aligns with academic research, where you identify gaps in literature and propose solutions. Reflect on a time you solved a problem creatively, maybe a group project where you found a new angle. Jot it down. We'll share some later. Creativity is a skill, not a gift, and today we'll practice it with exercises like the bowl exercise. By understanding creativity's roots, you'll see how it applies to your work, from designing presentations to solving regulatory challenges. Paul Torrance's definition of creativity is our foundation today. It's about sensing problems, making hypotheses, testing and revising them, and communicating results. This structured process applies across fields. In healthcare, a researcher might notice a gap in patient adherence to medication, hypothesize a mobile app solution, test it in trials, refine it based on data, and present findings to regulators. This mirrors Torrance's steps and shows creativity's practical side. Let's break it down. Sensing difficulties means spotting inefficiencies, like a lengthy hospital discharge process. Making guesses involves brainstorming solutions, maybe a digital checklist. Testing and revising require data, like patient feedback, to refine the idea. Communicating results could mean pitching to stakeholders, as you might in a regulatory affairs project. Torrance's model demystifies creativity, showing it's not random but systematic. Consider a team improving a supply chain. They identify delays, hypothesize automation, test it, and report savings. This process is universal, whether you're designing a product or writing a policy brief. In your studies, you've used this approach in research papers, identifying literature gaps and proposing solutions. Creativity isn't about being original in a vacuum. It's about solving real problems. For instance, IDEO, which we'll discuss, uses this process to design innovative products like medical devices. As students, you can apply Torrance's model to projects. Think about a gap in your field and how you'd address it. Write down one problem you've noticed in your work or studies. We'll use it later in the bowl exercise. This definition sets the stage for understanding creativity's mechanics and how to harness it. Divergent and convergent thinking are the yin and yang of creativity. Divergent thinking is about generating many ideas, quantity over quality. Imagine brainstorming ways to improve patient wait times. You might suggest apps, triage systems, or staff training. The goal is to explore possibilities without judgment. Convergent thinking, in contrast, narrows these ideas to the best ones, evaluating feasibility and impact. For example, you might choose the app because it's cost-effective and scalable. Both are essential. Divergent thinking sparks innovation, while convergent thinking ensures practicality. In pharmaceutical regulatory work, divergent thinking might generate ideas for streamlining submissions, while convergent thinking selects the best approach to meet Health Canada guidelines. Research shows creative people excel at switching between these modes. For instance, IDEO designers use divergent thinking to brainstorm wild product ideas, then convergent thinking to prototype the most promising ones. In your projects, you've likely used both. Brainstorming research topics, divergent, and refining them into a thesis, convergent. The challenge is knowing when to diverge or converge. Jumping to solutions too soon stifles creativity, while endless brainstorming wastes time. Practice this balance in the bowl exercise. Generate many uses for a bowl, divergent, then pick the best ones, convergent. Think of a time you used these modes. Maybe planning a group project where you listed ideas then chose one. Jot it down to share later. Mastering this switch enhances your problem solving, whether in healthcare, business, or policy. Let's explore how these modes shape the types of ideas we generate next. Divergent thinking, the heart of brainstorming, comes in 4 flavors: fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration. Fluency is about quantity, generating as many ideas as possible. For example, listing 20 ways to improve hospital efficiency, like better scheduling or AI diagnostics. Flexibility means variety, different categories of ideas, like tech solutions versus staff training. Originality focuses on unique ideas, like a novel patient check-in kiosk no one's tried. Elaboration adds depth, fleshing out an idea with details, like specifying how the kiosk integrates with existing systems. These types work together to fuel creativity. In regulatory affairs, you might use fluency to brainstorm ways to speed up drug approvals, flexibility to cover documentation and trials, originality to propose a new submission portal, and elaboration to detail its features. Research shows high fluency correlates with better problem solving, as seen in innovative companies like Tesla. In the bowl exercise, you'll practice these: listing many uses, fluency, varying them, flexibility, finding unique ones, originality, and detailing one, elaboration. Think of a project where you generated ideas, maybe a case study where you proposed multiple strategies. How did you balance quantity and uniqueness? These skills are critical in dynamic fields like healthcare, where you've studied frameworks like Health Canada standards. Creative teams, like IDEOs, use these types to design groundbreaking products. As you prepare for the bowl exercise, aim to hit all 4 types to stretch your creative muscles. Write down one idea you've had recently and classify it: fluency, flexibility, originality, or elaboration, to share later. The bowl exercise is a hands-on way to practice divergent thinking, and it's simple. Working alone, write down as many uses for a bowl as you can in 5 minutes. Don't judge your ideas. Just let them flow. This exercise builds fluency, quantity of ideas, flexibility, variety of ideas, originality, unique ideas, and elaboration, detailed ideas. For example, a bowl could be a container, a hat, a musical instrument, or a mold for crafts. The goal is to stretch your creative thinking, a skill vital in fields like healthcare or business. In regulatory affairs, you might brainstorm ways to present data to Health Canada, similar to listing bowl uses. Research shows solitary brainstorming, like this exercise, often outperforms group efforts because you're free from judgment or groupthink. Think of a time you brainstormed alone versus in a group. Did you feel freer alone? This exercise mimics real-world problem solving, like designing a new medical device or streamlining a process. As you do it, aim for at least 10 ideas, with a few that feel wild or unusual. Don't worry about practicality yet. That's for convergent thinking later. In a moment, we'll share a few ideas to see how creative you got. For inspiration, consider IDEO's approach. They encourage wild ideas to spark innovation. In your studies, you've tackled complex problems, like HR strategies for downsizing. Apply that same open-mindedness here. Grab a pen and paper, and let's start. When you're done, we'll analyze your ideas for fluency, flexibility, and originality to see how you did. Now that you've completed the bowl exercise, let's analyze your results. Count your ideas. That's fluency. Did you hit 10 or more? High fluency correlates with creative problem solving, as seen in innovative firms like Pfizer developing vaccines rapidly. Next, check flexibility. How many categories do your ideas span? Maybe you listed uses like cooking, decoration, and games. Diverse categories show flexible thinking, critical for tackling multifaceted problems like regulatory submissions. Now, originality. Are any ideas unusual, like using a bowl as a projector lens holder? Unique ideas often lead to breakthroughs, like novel drug delivery systems. Finally, elaboration. Did you add details to any idea, like describing the bowl as a solar-powered plant holder with sensors? Elaboration refines ideas for practical use, as you've done in research projects. Share 1 or 2 ideas with a partner. What makes them creative? Research shows solitary brainstorming, like this, generates more and better ideas than group efforts because you avoid inhibitions. In healthcare, solitary ideation might help design a new patient triage system without group pressure. Compare your results to a classmate's. Did they think of something you didn't? This exercise builds skills for real-world challenges, like innovating in Canadian healthcare systems you've studied. Keep your list. We'll revisit it when discussing convergent thinking to pick the best ideas. For now, reflect on what sparked your most creative idea. Was it freedom to think alone or the challenge itself? Surprisingly, research shows group brainstorming often produces fewer and lower quality ideas than solitary brainstorming, as we saw in the bowl exercise. Why? Groups face issues like inhibitions. People hesitate to share wild ideas for fear of judgment. Social loafing is another factor. Some members slack off, relying on others. Repetition happens when ideas get recycled, and groups often set standards too low, settling for safe suggestions. Conformity also stifles creativity, as people align with the majority. For example, in a healthcare team brainstorming ways to improve patient care, someone might hold back a bold idea like a new telehealth platform due to fear of criticism. Studies, like those by psychologist Paul Paulus, confirm solitary brainstorming yields more diverse and original ideas because you're free to think without pressure. This doesn't mean groups can't be creative. They just need structure, as we'll see with IDEO's rules. In your projects, like designing HR strategies, solitary ideation might help you generate bold ideas before group refinement. Think about a group project you've done. Did you notice these issues? Jot down one challenge you faced in group brainstorming to share later. Understanding these pitfalls helps you design better creative processes, whether in business or regulatory affairs. Next, we'll explore how to enhance group creativity and apply it to real-world problems like improving organizational efficiency. Creative people share distinct traits that we can all cultivate. First, they're knowledgeable. Deep expertise fuels innovation. A pharmaceutical researcher, for example, uses drug development knowledge to propose new therapies. Second, intrinsic motivation drives them. They create for passion, not just rewards. Think of a scientist working late to solve a puzzle, like those developing mRNA vaccines. Third, they're comfortable with ambiguity, embracing uncertainty where others hesitate. In regulatory affairs, navigating unclear guidelines requires this trait. Fourth, they're willing to take risks, proposing bold ideas even if they might fail, like pitching a novel submission process to Health Canada. Finally, a discovery orientation keeps them curious, always exploring new angles, like finding innovative uses for data in your research projects. These traits aren't exclusive to geniuses. You can develop them. Reflect on a time you took a risk or stayed curious in a project, maybe suggesting a new approach in a group assignment. Write it down to share. Companies like IDEO hire for these traits, building teams that innovate consistently. In healthcare, these characteristics drive solutions like AI diagnostics or streamlined hospital workflows. To build these traits, practice curiosity daily, ask what-if questions about your work. For example, what if you redesigned a process in your field? We'll see how these traits play out in IDEO's case study. But first, let's explore how social contexts shape them. Creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's shaped by social contexts like family, schools, mentors, and organizations. Families can nurture creativity by encouraging curiosity. A parent who asks why sparks a child's imagination. Schools play a role through open-ended projects versus rigid tests. In your courses, like regulatory affairs, open-ended case studies foster creative problem-solving, unlike rote memorization. Mentors are crucial. Think of a professor who challenged you to rethink a research question, pushing you to innovate. Organizations set the tone too. Google's creative culture encourages experimentation, while rigid firms stifle it. In healthcare, hospitals that reward innovative ideas, like new patient care models, see better outcomes. Reflect on your experiences. Has a mentor or workplace inspired your creativity? Jot down one example to share. Research shows supportive environments boost creativity by providing psychological safety, freedom to take risks without fear. In contrast, overly critical settings, like a team dismissing bold ideas, kill innovation. In your studies, you've seen how Canadian healthcare systems encourage innovation through policies like those from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. To apply this, think about fostering creativity in your teams, maybe by creating a safe space for ideas in a group project. As we move to brainstorming, consider how social contexts influence group dynamics and how you can create an environment where creativity thrives. Group brainstorming sounds promising but often falls short, as we saw in The Verdict slide. People face inhibitions, fearing judgment for bold ideas, like suggesting a radical healthcare policy in a meeting. Social loafing occurs when some members contribute less, relying on others. Repetition is common. Ideas get rephrased instead of new ones emerging. Groups often set low standards, settling for safe ideas, and conformity pressures people to agree with the majority, stifling originality. For example, in a pharmaceutical team, someone might avoid proposing a new trial design if it feels too out there. Research by Deal and Strobe shows these issues reduce idea quantity and quality. In your group projects, like those in HR or regulatory affairs, you may have noticed these dynamics. Maybe a quiet member held back a great idea. Write down one group brainstorming challenge you've faced to share. These pitfalls explain why solitary brainstorming, like the bowl exercise, often works better. However, groups can be creative with the right approach, as we'll see with IDEO. To improve, set clear rules, like no judgment, and encourage wild ideas. In healthcare, structured brainstorming could generate innovative patient care solutions. Let's explore how to enhance team creativity next. applying these lessons to make your group work more effective. To make group brainstorming effective, we need deliberate strategies to overcome the pitfalls we just discussed. First, set high goals and increase accountability. Challenge teams to generate 50 ideas, not 10, to push creativity. In healthcare, this might mean aiming for multiple ways to reduce patient wait times. Follow explicit rules, like IDEOs, defer judgment, to create a safe space. A positive mood boosts creativity. Start with an icebreaker to energize the team, like a quick game before a project meeting. Psychological safety is key. Team members must feel free to share without fear, as seen in successful firms like Google. Use facilitators to guide discussions and prevent dominant voices from taking over. Brief breaks refresh focus, allowing new ideas to emerge. Building a playground, a creative space with tools like whiteboards, sparks inspiration, much like IDEO studios. Diversifying the team brings varied perspectives. In regulatory affairs, including clinicians and data analysts ensures richer ideas. In your projects, like designing HR strategies, diverse teams likely generated better solutions. Reflect on a time a diverse team helped you innovate. Write it down to share. Research shows these strategies increase idea quality by 20–30%. Apply them in your next group project to brainstorm effectively, whether for a policy brief or a new product. Next, we'll see how IDEO puts these into practice. IDEO, a global design firm, is a masterclass in creativity, designing products like Apple's first mouse and innovative medical devices. Their success comes from a structured yet playful approach to innovation, which we'll explore through their brainstorming rules. IDEO's process starts with observing real-world problems, like how patients use medical equipment, then brainstorming solutions in diverse teams. They prototype rapidly, testing ideas like a new hospital bed design, and iterate based on feedback. This mirrors Torrance's creativity definition: sensing problems, hypothesizing, testing, and communicating. In your regulatory affairs work, IDEO's approach could inspire creative ways to streamline submissions, like a user-friendly portal for Health Canada. Their culture emphasizes collaboration and risk-taking, fostering the traits we discussed: knowledge, motivation, and comfort with ambiguity. IDEO's studios, filled with prototypes and sticky notes, create a playground for ideas, as we saw in enhancing team creativity. Their case shows how structured creativity drives innovation, even in complex fields like healthcare. Think about a problem in your field. How would IDEO tackle it? Write down one idea inspired by their approach to share. As we review their rules next, consider how you can apply them in your teams to boost creativity and solve real-world challenges. IDEO's brainstorming rules are a blueprint for effective team creativity, addressing the pitfalls we discussed. One conversation at a time keeps focus, preventing chaotic side chats that derail ideas. Stay focused on topic ensures relevance, like keeping a healthcare team on patient care solutions, not unrelated issues. Encourage wild ideas sparks originality. Think of proposing a gamified app for medication adherence. Defer judgment creates psychological safety, allowing bold ideas without criticism, unlike typical group settings where conformity stifles innovation. The bell, a playful tool, signals when judgment creeps in, keeping the vibe positive. Build on the ideas of others fosters collaboration, like refining a teammate's triage system idea. These rules align with research showing structured brainstorming boosts idea quality by 25%. In your projects, like HR or regulatory assignments, applying these rules could generate better solutions. For example, deferring judgment might encourage a novel approach to downsizing communication. Reflect on a group project. How could these rules have helped? Write down one rule you'll try in your next team meeting. IDEO's success, from designing medical devices to retail experiences, shows these rules work across industries. Practice them in your next brainstorming session to unlock your team's creative potential. The result of structured creativity, as seen in IDEO's process, is innovation that transforms industries. From the first Apple mouse to life-saving medical devices, IDEO's blend of divergent thinking, prototyping, and focused chaos delivers results. In healthcare, their approach could streamline patient care or regulatory processes, like a digital platform for Health Canada submissions. The key is balancing wild ideas with rigorous testing, ensuring solutions are both creative and practical. In your projects, like those in regulatory affairs or HR, this process can yield impactful outcomes, such as a new policy or team strategy. Reflect on a project where structured creativity led to success, maybe a well-received research paper. Write it down to share. Research shows companies using structured creative processes, like IDEOs, achieve 50% higher innovation success rates. You can apply this by adopting IDEO's rules in your teams, encouraging wild ideas, and iterating rapidly. In Canadian healthcare, this could mean designing patient-centered solutions that align with the Canada Health Act. The result isn't just a product, it's a mindset of continuous innovation. As you leave today, think about one problem in your field and how IDEO's process could solve it. Let's share a few ideas now to wrap up. Thank you for your attention.